Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our show once again. It is Thursday evening, and it is time for another The Author's Dilemma show, where
Woo.
we talk about ourselves in hopes that we teach you on what to do and what not to do. Mostly, probably on what not to do. But my name is J.E. Jack, and I write urban fantasy, horror, supernatural thrillers, and whatever else seems to tickle my fancy.
And I'm Hyrum Hawks, and I write hard sci-fi and hard sci-fantasy.
And I'm Jennifer Carr, and I write Christian romantic suspense as well as clean contemporary romance.
That's right. And if you are listening to us in the car, or if you're here tonight, be sure to reach out. If you're here tonight, you can use the comments to contact us. And if you're listening to us in the car or wherever you are, be sure to use our email, authorsdilemma@gmail.com, and you can send your messages, good and bad, because we will take both. And we'll comment on the ones that we like. All right. So what is going on in our, what comes next? Should the news come next or our business update?
I think
The news is pretty boring this week.
All right. Well, let's go with the business update then.
I was going to say mine is book talk gossip, so we can take it or leave it.
We'll get to that. Hyrum, what's going on in your business this week?
So this week has mostly just been writing. Still waiting. My narrator for my first book, The Persian Asteroid, is trucking along, and he's working on tuning the accents to really match the characters, which is it's a real challenge. I know what I want him to sound like, but he can't read my mind apparently.
That's always a problem.
It's an excuse, is what that is.
Exactly. So working on that, continuing to add layers to my other books. I've got the 2 books I'm working on with the book groups, and then I've got other books I shouldn't be working on, but that keep having ideas. So
yes, and for those of you that are listening, I just found out about a book that a book series that he doesn't talk about, but I'm really excited for already. And it's funny because he was talking about it, and I was like, we've been doing this show for, this is our 15th show, by the way. And this is the first I've heard of it. And I thought I was the problem, but no, it's all Hyrum. Hyrum's the problem. He just doesn't talk to us about
He's
his books.
gatekeeping.
Well, when you've got like 3 active series that you're writing,
That's
and then
amazing,
you've
honestly.
got like 3 other books at any given time that you're writing a first chapter on, I have so much chaos. I don't know what I talk about. Whichever one is interesting to me that day.
I find that pretty amazing.
Oh, and here's another glimpse into the author's mind. So if you feel like you're chaotic, trust me, you're not the only one. My son was telling me he met a traveling monk today that had just stopped by Utah, I don't know why, on his way from California, and it just inspired a character for me in my Lunar Impact book, and a whole nother plot sequence that really makes the ending even better. So you never know where inspiration will come.
That's
Isn't
true.
that the truth?
That's true.
I'm kidding.
So Jen, what's going on in your business?
I'm in edits with alpha readers and that kind of stuff for the second book of my series, and I made some pretty major changes to a couple parts of it, and I got positive feedback, so I'm going to go with it. We're gonna hope for the best. I feel so like creatively stunted, but I think it's because I'm gearing up for it totally. Like when I'm doing my podcast and when I'm writing, they don't go well together. And so I'm hoping that in the next week I can finish up the edits, because I really like to send it out to beta readers and not think about it for another month while I am inundated with podcast stuff. And I interviewed a virtual assistant today. I'm hoping that we can add some help in here, because I'm about to lose my mind with all of the administrative stuff that goes with the podcast right now. So
Jen, have you noticed that your accent gets thicker when you sound stressed?
because I'll lose control over it. Yes, when I'm thinking about it, I don't have one. But when I'm stressed or when I'm tired, yes, you can hear it a little more.
It's awesome. You should lean
I'm
into that
super
accent.
sophisticated, y'all.
Boy, howdy.
And if anybody's been watching Fallout this week, which you two haven't, because I already covered this with you, but okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
If you watch it, you'll get it. So, Well, that's pretty cool. At some point we'll have to talk to you about your podcast, your other podcast, which we do, it's kind of like as a side note, but I would be interested to see about the difference it takes between the analytical mind when it comes to doing your podcast versus your creative mind when it comes to your writing. And I think that's honestly, that's probably something we always have a problem with when it comes to the business side, the analytical side versus the creative side, the writing of the books. Because, we're juggling a lot of stuff going on with writing and business in general. So it'd be interesting to kind of see that.
Oh, yeah. Shifting gears is complicated.
Gears.
Yeah. Like I can't do both on the same day.
Really?
Yeah. I can't. But I also do, like, there are days where there's one day that I have 4 interviews over the course of the day. There's another day that there's a couple that I have 3. Most of them I have 2. So, I'm constantly in that zone of having to think, interview, people, professional, that kind of thing. So creative, just boop, even though I'm talking to creatives, it's a totally different side of the brain.
That's interesting. So I guess you front load all your guests on one day so that way it doesn't eat up your whole week. So that's pretty cool. It's
a lot.
Yes. So for me, it has been a week. I am
4 straight Mondays is what I remember you saying.
Yes, 4 straight Mondays. I am working. Hopefully tomorrow is not the 5th Monday, but we'll see. No, so in my business, I am pivoting. Every time I hear the word pivot, I think of Friends. Pivot. So I'm pivoting from Facebook ads to Amazon ads, and I've got to get better at that. And I'm learning a little bit more about it. But as far as being successful, I'm not. I think I am being successful because if you look at the statistics, it does show that yes, I am making more than what I'm spending. That's fantastic. However, trying to get Amazon to spend my money, Facebook has no problem spending your money and then some. But with Amazon, you really have to. You have to use your analytical brain and you have to figure out what you're targeting. Because if you're targeting the wrong audience, I mean, the great thing about Amazon, and I will say this, they're really concerned about their customers and their customer experience. So if your ad is not going to do it for them, their algorithms will not show it to them, which in turn which is great because you won't waste money. But at the same time, you're not getting exposure. So you really have to do some research. And then I found out that in the process of doing research, that my new book covers that I spent so much money on may not be the ideal book covers for the genres that I'm looking at. So, hey, we all learn. That's a pretty expensive mistake. But, hey, thank goodness. Thank goodness that, I got this writing affliction that I continue to do. So, I don't think I'm going to go anywhere. But anyway, if you guys have a question tonight.
Affliction is right.
Yes,
affliction
it
is right.
Addiction, affliction, addiction, alliteration. I got to think of the third A, but all right. So,
there's several.
Yeah. Yes. All right.
Anyway.
So next part of the show is where we talk about the news. Is there anything newsworthy going on in the book world?
I won't say newsworthy. You got anything, Hyrum? No. This week has been in book in threads. It's mostly just been people arguing about certain arc things. But we already talked about arcs last week. I don't think it's worth it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've shared the heck out of last week's show. There have just been a lot of misconceptions about what arc readers are, and so that's kind of interesting how it's all piled up. I wonder what's going on. That would bring that up. Maybe it's just
it was our show.
It was our show. We started it. We did. We're trendsetters.
All 10 of our subscribers. Thank you. You did it.
Yay. Yeah. Well, okay. So I'll talk about, I'll bring the book talk drama. So the most recent drama that's coming out of book talk world is that men are angry that women are reading romance books and they will not stand for it, and they think that women are addicted to the written porn, basically. And so they have demanded that women give up book talk for actual literature, basically.
So they're all
Okay.
arguing over the category book talk. Is that what I'm getting?
Yes, they think that smutty romance has overtaken actual book talk, which I'm sorry, but
Okay,
that's
smutty
where it kinda
romance is
started.
maybe the largest genre on the planet.
Right.
Just like pornography is the largest genre for men of anything.
Right.
But what does that have to? I mean,
Men think that
that's
it's
a great
not
way
fair.
to alienate
Yeah.
people. Well, it's not fair that men look at porn either. So maybe put your money where your mouth is and don't look at porn if you don't want girls reading smutty books.
Oh, interesting. We can have a whole debate over all that.
Direction.
Josh, take a sip of your tea. Just let it go. I saw the gears grinding.
All right. Yes, there's so many things I could say, but but, you know, this is
Family-friendly show.
Yes, we try to be anyway. Well, that's interesting. So Jen, I obviously use TikTok. Hyrum, use Threads.
Avoid it. I don't use Threads. It keeps giving me notifications in my Instagram.
And you can't leave the red dot there.
Yeah.
So, you know, I go through like, not love hate, but I go through these cycles of, oh man, I got to really get on my social media. It's just like everything, you know, just like anything with our authoring, you know, oh, I got to get my newsletters, which sadly I still haven't done. But, you know, when it goes back to social media and trying to, which by the way, folks, tonight we are going to talk about brand and how to use social media or whatever you do in your authoring business to build that brand. And obviously a lot of people use social media to build that brand. And so this is why I'm talking about the whole cycle of, okay, I do have to do social media, but man, there is so many, like Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days. You know, that was the popular place to be. And now it's not so popular, but yet people are still on there. And now you got Threads, which is basically the same thing as Twitter in a way.
And then you've got some,
but it's not as
Mastodon.
But it's not as user friendly as Twitter, I think.
It's not.
You know, you can't really tag people. It's really kind of hard to get into different categories or even be seen. And then there's pros and cons to each platform. Honestly, I wish they would just bring back MySpace. You know, another thing I liked about MySpace is you could tell a lot about a person in the first 10 seconds of being on their page.
You know why? Because MySpace was a giant platform for branding yourself.
Right. Like, you know, I could see if someone was really chaotic, like, oh my gosh, we do not mix, you know, but you know, if you went to someone's page and you saw, like, you know, you heard music that you liked and you saw some pictures, you're like, oh, you know, or whatever. There was a lot to it, but sadly, MySpace has gone the way of the buffalo, and
I know it.
No longer.
I thought it still existed, but no one uses it.
I can't remember.
No, it doesn't. It's not the same. It's not. I think it went out, and then someone else bought it. And now it's a music.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. So tonight we are talking about branding, that's it. and that's as far as my authoring branding goes, apparently.
Me too, Jen.
Yes, Jen.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about branding. Okay. Yes. So I think one of the first things you have to realize is that when you become a self-published author, you're a business owner. You are at that point where you are a business owner, and you have to step into that role and embrace every part of it. And that means creating a brand. And with creating a brand, I mean, when you think of brands, what's your mind automatically go to?
Coca-Cola.
Doritos. I don't know.
Nice. Mine's always Nike. Like, I've always thought Nike. That's always been the one that my brain goes to. And it's not just the logo, but like there's a memorable commercial that goes with it, or there's products that go with those commercials, that kind of thing. And the same is true for when you become an author. You want people to immediately hear your name and see in their mind something, right? And you want it to be consistent. And so that's kind of what we're talking about when it comes to creating a brand. It's what you want to present to the world, and it all has to flow together. That doesn't mean that, all of your book covers look exactly the same, but maybe your book covers should look very similar to one another, especially like in a series and that kind of thing, because as soon as somebody hears your name, they're going to think that series, they're going to think that book cover, or your aesthetic, like all of my colors for my brand are kind of bright and happy or calming, or, but they're all in the same family. That's kind of what you're looking at as far as a brand is concerned.
So I'll throw out a funny story.
Okay.
So I go to the Space Resources Roundtable every year I can, which, yes, I am that big of a nerd. But outer space is my thing. And we were talking about branding in a sense. How do we get marketing to help pay for space missions? In other words, why aren't astronaut uniforms covered in corporate logos?
Like NASCAR
Why aren't
drivers?
But then I think it was me that brought it up because I am a comedian. And I said, why aren't we charging for branding space on the moon? You could carve a giant Coca-Cola logo on the moon. And I was saying that as a joke, but several people, there are a lot of engineers that don't have senses of humor. And so it did start a very interesting debate in this roundtable as to what is appropriate. There are actually groups that consider the moon sacred, and even landing on the moon violates their religious beliefs. We've ignored that because we're going to space, and if we ignore, that's society. We ignore everything. But really, those are the kind of questions that we ask as part of the space community: is how do we pay for our brand? How do we pay for what we want to do with with whatever means possible?
Interesting.
We steal from the population through taxes. I mean, whoa. that's a topic for another.
Is over.
Yes. Just kidding, folks. Just kidding. I'll be here all night.
Yikes. Oh, that's funny. Well, and it's funny because I said NASCAR drivers, and you see the logos for their brands and their sponsors all over their uniforms. But how distracting is that? Like, I can never focus on any one logo that says, oh, they are definitely sponsored by whatever, unless it's their car has the big logo on it. And so, NASCAR is popular around here. It may not be where you are, but that's what my mind goes to, is like a NASCAR sponsor type thing. But whatever the case may be, your branding has to be consistent across all your platforms, right? Like, it's your social media, and it's your website, and it's when you're in person with people, whether you're at an author event or whatever. And so it has to be consistent across the board.
I think it's easier, and I think I've probably touched this topic in the past, but I think it's easier for people that write series. It's easier for the series to become a brand than it is to become a brand as an author. Like, we all know who Stephen King is. We all know who Dean Koontz is, but I can't, and yes, I could name their books, but they're all standalone books for the most part. But like Jack Reacher, and I only know the author of Jack Reacher because he has a class on Masterclass, I believe. No, through the BBC Maestro, I'm sorry, it's a great course. And it's Lee Child, by the way. And, but most people don't know that. It's like, oh, it's a Jack Reacher book. They have no idea who that. So when it comes to branding, you can brand a series, you can brand a book, you can also brand yourself as an author. So, and I think a lot of people kind of forget that too. And what is your end goal here?
Yeah, I think it's easy to forget that you have to brand yourself as a self-published author.
Right.
As a person, like, you have to, because you're the one responsible for reaching out to your audience. You're the one responsible for pushing that newsletter in front of people. You're the one that has to get your work out there. And so whatever you want, the emotions that you want to evoke from your readers, you also want to evoke that from your audience, and you need it to be the same, because that audience needs to be your readers, right? Like, you can't put across, this would be really hard to do probably because it's a personality thing, but like, I couldn't be a goth dressed person, like very dark and broody, and then sell that book. Like, sure, I don't think I could, because it would be giving mixed messages, and they wouldn't know what to expect when they open that book. Now, am I a pink and flowery kind of person? Not really. But that is my brand, because that's what my books make you feel. And so that's kind of the direction that I've taken. Like, and I don't think y'all could dress flowery even if you liked flowers and then sell your dark paranormal or your space science fiction
Hey,
fantasies. So
don't put your restrictions on me, lady.
I'm just saying, if you want to reach a target audience, your audience
Yeah.
has expectations. You need to meet them.
100%. And I wouldn't feel comfortable in that brand anyway. That's actually a really important point.
Yes, it is.
If you can't feel comfortable in your brand, you're not going to succeed in that brand.
Wait,
one of the
wait,
things
wait,
that's
but
worked for
one-
me in my career.
But one thing on that, there's a difference between that and imposter syndrome.
Oh, that's very true. Very true.
Right.
But like feeling comfortable in your brand for me is like, okay, I wear these kind of colors, the bright, bold colors. I don't wear pastels. I don't wear dark brooding
He's wearing a
colors.
blue shirt.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Bright and bold.
Yes.
I love, like, I will never wear what my wife wears. She wears the bright and cheerful colors, like the pastels, especially the pale pinks, and but there are, and now, this is not a gender thing. This is a color profile thing.
Mhm.
I don't fit in those colors, and I'd feel uncomfortable. I also don't feel comfortable with broody, just dark stories. Like, I tried writing horror. It is not my genre. I wrote a short story in it. It was very depressing, and I finished. I was like, well, that was an experiment. Not doing that again. I don't fit in the horror genre as an author. If I wrote a horror movie or a horror story, it would end up being a comedy. And it probably wouldn't end up being very horrifying. It would probably be more just... if you've read Dan Wells, he has a story where he has this guy that keeps being mistaken for the king of the vampires, and he gets to travel around with John Keats and Mary Shelley, and it's very much a comedy. And it's horror. He's being mistaken for a vampire. There's nothing horrific about that story. That's not the brand of that story. But meanwhile, Dan Wells does write serial killer novels. And that's his brand. It works for him. Don't try to write something that just is not your brand. That's a lot of people think, oh, I've got to write romance with smut in order to make money, and maybe that's true. But can you be dishonest to yourself? I will never write smut. I will never closed door, fade to black. That's me, because I'm not comfortable. My brand will never involve anything further than that.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if that's what your readers are expecting, that's what they need to find when they find your ads. Like if they prefer closed door, fade to black, boundaries, decorum, discretion, whatever the case may be, your book covers are going to reflect that. Your ads on Facebook are you're not going to have a shirtless man and be like, no, there's nothing in here that's risque. You're going to send mixed messages, because what does a shirtless man on a cover mean? It usually means spice. And so if you don't want to confuse your audience, because you will lose readers, and then you'll disappoint other readers who show up expecting something totally different. So your goal is not to people please, but to definitely meet the expectations of your target audience. Because when you write that book, you have an audience in mind.
And going along with that, even if you get sales, they might not be good sales, because if you're not reaching the target, they will leave bad reviews, which will not be good.
And they won't be return readers, but
right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's poisoning the well.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. So consistency just across the board. And again, like, I really like the whole, like, don't try to be something you're not, and ask people, right? Like when somebody reads your book, what did that make you feel? And what did you imagine? Or, get some feedback on an ad that you've put out there, or on just a piece of art that you've done, like whatever. I can't even think of the word that
focus
I'm trying,
groups.
Find you a focus group, but get feedback before putting stuff out there. If you think there's something wrong with it, or if it's not getting results, it may just be that you're being inconsistent.
And we talked a little bit about this last week too. Remember, the internet is forever.
Yeah.
So whatever you put out, especially when it comes from your mouth, be careful what you put out, because is that really, I mean, let's say you made it, let's say you made extreme success, whatever. Well, just because you get success doesn't mean you're still going to have detractors. I mean, you're still going to have people that are going to, be sniping at you. So don't provide them any ammo.
Yes, exactly.
And there's a lot on TikTok that I saw the brief time that I was there of wow, there's a lot of ammo I could use here now and in the future of whatever you see out there. So you just gotta be careful what you put out
There's the
because people can
Wayback
use it.
Machine.
Oh, the
you've seen
Wayback
Wayback
Machine. That's
Yes.
actually kind of fun. It took me back to my GeoCities website from when I was in
Oh
high
my
school.
goodness.
It's pretty good. That's good stuff.
The kind where you go to the website and there's probably like, you know, the MIDI music. Like,
Heck yeah!
how do I turn this off? How do I turn this off?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
so
you know,
funny.
you're doing it at 10 p.m. because you're not sleepy and your parents thought you were in bed, and then
Yeah, if you
the
really
stupid
like to
website
cringe.
starts making the MIDI, the sounding.
Oh, that's funny.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, exactly. What else? There was something else that I was gonna say,
No
but I
pressure.
can't remember what it was. I know. That's all right.
Well, if it's meant to be,
Oh,
it will come.
it came back. Okay,
meant to be.
so talking about sending mixed messages and that kind of thing. That's where a pen name comes in handy. For instance, like if Hyrum did decide that he wanted to write him a spicy space novel, he could change his pen name to something else, and he could write under that name and have a completely separate brand for that set of novels, whatever that may
At that
be.
point, it would be H Hawks, and the H would stand for hypocrite.
I'm just saying, like if you wanted, if
Yes.
you had a
H
plan,
squared.
yeah, for the nerdy. That's awesome. But yeah,
But
so that's where you can diverge that way.
Well,
if you needed to.
I always heard of the joke, and I shared it with you before. You know, if you're going to do something like that, it's kind of the same with if you're going to get into the adult industry. You would use the street name that you grow up on and your middle name. So it would be, if I ever did that, it'd be Edmund's Jubilee, which is fantastic for a romance, right? I mean, that'd be like, what the heck is this?
Hilarious.
My street name is 50 East. How does that work? Please advise.
Actually, that would probably,
I mean,
depending on what you're writing. Don't go down to that street. It's 50 East.
ooh, red light district.
Oh,
That's
Lord.
hilarious. Well, anyway, that was what my whole point was. Nothing to do with that. But like, if you were going to start a totally separate series or a different brand that you're
V.E.
like, hey,
Schwab.
yes.
V.E. Schwab has Victoria Schwab for one genre, V.E. Schwab for a totally different one.
Yes.
I can't remember what they are because I haven't read any of her books, but she was a guest on some podcast.
Yeah, so you create a whole different personality if you want to. Now, is it easy to keep up with multiple brands? I don't know. I wouldn't do it because I don't have the bandwidth, but you can.
Yeah, I'm pretty much what you see is what you get. But then again, that's a brand too.
Yeah.
And even though my books are sipping kind of like, they're completely different, they're standalone, and I'm writing all sorts. You're still going to find a readership that likes that.
Yeah.
And I mean, but it's, they all have pros and cons.
Yeah.
And, also, I mean, like no matter what you put out there, there's going to be someone out there for it, which
Absolutely.
is something else I find is amazing. However, depending on how niche it is or, what it is, it might just take you longer to find that group.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Definitely. And I think that we get so caught up sometimes in trying to attract people like us that we kind of push people out sometimes, and we're like, oh, they would never want to read my book. But I have found that there are actually people very different from me who would actually want to read my books and have given me good reviews on my books. So,
That's true. And it's funny because like there's people that I've known. Well, there's a lot of people I don't know that's read my books. And it's always amazing when you log in, you're like, oh my gosh, that's a great review.
Yeah.
But then when it's like a review from someone that I honestly did not think they would even like my books.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they're being nice or not, but no, I mean, but they seem genuine when they talk to me. I'm like, man, that was really good. And I'm like, oh, thank you. What do I do with this compliment? Are you talking to me? I'm looking behind me like, oh yeah, I guess I'm the only one that writes books here, I guess.
I can honestly say I don't think I've ever picked up a book because I was like, ooh, I want to read something by this person. I usually pick up a book because of the story, and then I'm like, ooh, if she writes it, I'll read it. Like, I don't think I've ever been like, but I don't know. Having a brand is important when you're trying to put yourself out there to be recognized, to be recognizable. Right. Yeah.
Well, I think the brain, our brain takes in so much information, so we start chunking it into groups, and that's what makes it easy to, that's why there was brands. So that way it's easier for the brain to latch onto it, and, and then, obviously future breeds or whatever, once they see it, it does that. So what is this? Rob Carr says, future topic suggestion. Yep. Yes, he's been around a few shows. Pretty much all of them, I bet.
All of them.
Anyway, Rob Carr says, future topic suggestion, use of metrics to track progress, author business goals, marketing, branding return on investment, branding return on effort / investment, etc.
Jen, should he be teaching this podcast episode?
Yes. Yes. That is, he just got himself invited to a show.
Yes. That's great, Rob, if you know how to do that stuff.
That's why I married him. He's the spreadsheet guy. He's the metrics guy. Like, you marry your stalker.
I can't wait to meet him someday.
I'm telling you.
Future topic suggestion: benefits of a live-in stalker. Author success secrets. I mean, we've got 2 out of the 3 people in this. Their significant other is involved in their author success.
For sure. That's true. Like, if it wasn't for my wife being my editor, it's tough. I mean, I couldn't imagine. Yeah. And which right now she's editing my urban fantasy novel, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, seriously. Hey, and that's a whole other topic, is finding support. Like, if it's not in your family, you have to have support to do this job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to. But if you can have it in your family, even better.
Even then, it's okay. So my wife's an author. She's an editor. That's great, but she's not an author.
Yeah.
And that's not a detraction. I mean, she could if she, anyway. But just like, your husband is great at doing all that stuff. But when it comes to the writing aspect, that's why it's so important to get around other writers.
Yes.
While it's good to get into a supportive, a support group of, obviously if it's in your family, that's great. And you're going to find support through different means, like, an editor or, an assistant or different things.
Writing group.
But, I keep on saying, a lot, but
because we do.
Yes. But with the Discord or getting around other groups or, like you guys, it's such I'm not alone. I'm not the weirdo. I'm not such a weirdo. I am, but I'm okay with that, who I am. And I've had some other weirdos too.
That's right.
That's
Join me on this jolly journey.
You're making an excellent point, because your branding is owning who you are. Because we all can tell the fake people.
Right.
Like, anyone who's older than about 35, maybe 30, might remember there's one politician that bothered me more than anything. I don't even remember his first name. It might have been John Edwards. He cheated on his wife dying of cancer.
Oh, yeah.
He was a fake. He was a fake person. I don't care which political party you're part of. If you do that kind of stuff, he tried to still pass himself off as this wonderful person, a great statesman. He was a fake, and everyone could tell because his brand slipped.
Yep. Because
he wasn't actually his brand. He was. This might be true of all politicians, so caveat there. But what he put in public was not matching what he was inside.
Right.
So what you are inside, unless you're a philandering cheater and awful human being like most politicians, just be you. That's your brand. Be you and own it, because odds are, unless you are one of those people, you're probably a decent human being and you're interesting. I mean, if you're one of those people, please stop writing. If you're one of those awful people.
I do find that most people that are nice are genuine, right?
Yeah.
It's usually people that are trying to prove something that aren't very genuine with themselves or those around them. Yeah. And they try to, anyway, that's probably another topic for another podcast.
I think if your brand comes from your passion, right? Like
Right.
if your brand comes from your passion, then you're not going to have a problem creating a brand and establishing your presence and being who you're supposed to be. But it is those who are out there just trying to make a dollar off their books. Do we all want to make money? Absolutely. But I think first and foremost, like you called it, it's an affliction. Like we have to write. We want to write. We have this need to tell stories. And that's just going to overflow into our presence. And so take that what you will.
It's true.
Yes, I was 42 when I first started this drug called writing. And
I was 40.
I can't stop this monkey on my back.
So that's it.
There's too many stories in there. They won't. They need to come out.
Ooh,
Well, and that's
yep.
the thing is like, we're fighting time. We're not here forever. And that's the thing that kind of bothers me as I'm getting older and starting to, the finite of the time that we have left. And are we using it wisely to get out the stories that we have inside?
Yeah.
So.
Well, tune
At least
into
that's what I'm
one of my
doing.
upcoming books when time is no longer an issue, because every time you go through a portal, your body is revived.
Oh,
And you restart the clock at 23, and
Well, see, that was what
That's a
bothered
whole
me.
nother-
Like the whole teleportation, like Star Trek when they did the teleporting.
oh yeah.
I was
Why didn't they
like,
just fix their age.
well, no. What I get worried about is like, what if you die? It's just a clone.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, there's a great couple there's a lot of videos about how teleportation is mass murder.
but
Oh,
no one
my.
knows because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because it doesn't exist yet anyway, so that's a totally
Right.
separate topic.
So let's have an esoteric conversation about it. All right, so 36 minutes in. Is there anything
We should talk about next week.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Go
Do
ahead.
it.
Robert, I met a great guy, Robert Zangari, who is an excellent author. He and his dad co-author a lot of books. And he writes those big chunky books, the ones that you could use for like a pillow, because they're so thick. And you can
Or if
also
you're
use
short
them as
like
a
me,
weapon.
you can use it on your seat where you can kind of set up a little bit or look over the steering wheel. I mean, yeah.
We don't have yellow pages anymore, so
They're epic. They're epic books. I've started reading one. I met him at a recent convention. Instant friends. His daughter is a comedian already, and she's 11. So I can't wait to introduce my son, who's 10, to them. I think it'll be a comedic joy. But yeah, Robert is coming on our podcast next week as a guest. He'll talk about the process of becoming both of co-authoring and being an independent author, doing that for a living. So it should be a great time. I get to meet another author. You won't just have to listen to the three of us ramble on. You get to hear someone else put in their 2 cents.
awesome.
Yes, I concur. All right. Well, all right, everyone. Thank you for so much for your time this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us an email at authorsdilemma@gmail.com or on our Facebook. Be sure to reach out to us. Let us know how we're doing, because obviously the only way we get better is if we hear from you. If you have any
Please talk to
topics,
us.
yes, if you have any other topics that you would like us to cover, by all means, please send them our way, because we're always looking at things to talk about. So that's it. All right. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.